Hello and welcome to the Unscripted Journey Podcast. I am Lucy Imanetali, and on today's episode, we will be talking about education, the role of parents in achieving that. So I have a worthy guest here to talk about her experience and how she was able to succeed in the role of her family in making that a success. Hello and welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, I am Marian Pleasant Kargbo, barrister and solicitor of the High Court of Sierra Leone, the CEO and founder of Pleasant Foundation Sierra Leone, and the National Secretary General for the 50-50 Group Sierra Leone.
Okay, you're wearing many hats. And how's that going, by the way?
Oh, it has been challenging, difficult, but I would say it has also been fun and inspiring doing all of it together.
Nice. Okay, so tell me about your childhood experience. How did you grow into becoming the Marian Pleasant Kargbo that you are today?
Okay, so most times my childhood is something that I always struggle to talk about, but I'll try. So I'm actually from a very humble background. So I was actually born in Kamakwie. That is Stella Limba Chiefdom. And I was raised by my aunt at Wellington. There I was there till around 10, 12, if I can remember. And then later I was reunited with my family. That's my mom and dad. And then I started when I was in Wellington, I was attending the Koya Community School. It's a kind of just a community school. And then later when I relocated with my parents, I was enrolled at the United Methodist Church Primary School, Bishop Buffman, the one at Brookfield, Bright Street. There I sat my NPSC, and then Joseph's Convent, did my JSS and took the Becker and had an aggregate to go to SSS. So I went to SSS Arts and I took the WAS exams there, and then went to Frabe College to read political science as my first degree. Or maybe educational wise, that will be my childhood journey, unless if there is any specifics I want to add.
Okay, maybe we would bend a little to the aspect of family.
Okay, so my parents are both pastors. My mom is late. She was a pastor, and so is my dad. So as I said, I'm actually from a humble background. So my dad is a primary school teacher, but someone that is actually dedicated and prioritize the welfare of his family. Someone that has always been there amidst difficulties, and we are 5, so I'm the only girl to 5 brothers, and that itself it's something that is so inspiring to me, and it's something that have helped me a lot, especially in all aspects of my life, because being raised among boys in my home, I learned that you can be whatever you want to be, and there is no differentiation of roles. So most times you do things that you're supposed to do, not because you are a man or a woman. So I grew up with that, and at times I feel even bad when people say, oh, the reason why we just allow her do it is because she is a woman. No, I was raised in a home wherein you compete and you go for whatever you feel you want to do, but you are being guided in that process. So I am from that family wherein we have our backs. We look out for each other, and you are allowed to grow based on actually what you want to do, but being guided. Because even when I started my foundation, I was just in FSS by then, but then looking at how much I struggled in terms of attaining, especially secondary school education, because it was not easy for my family. Then I now look at those whose families are not fortunate like mine. I imagine the struggle I went through. So I just put myself in their position. And then I said, okay, I want to have Pleasant Foundation. By then, I didn't even know the name because I was not even sure what I was doing. I just knew I needed to help people. How it was going to be done, I don't know. But also with the support of my family, I was guided until I took the WAS and went to university. Then I started off proper with the foundation. So I'm actually from that family where we prioritize the welfare of one another. And also, though it was not easy, but we always make sure we have our backs, and we always have parents that look out for us and make sure they do what they were supposed to do, although it was not enough.
Yeah. It's amazing to note that you had the Pleasant Foundation idea from GSS, right?
Yes. SSS.
Okay, and then it kicked off afterwards.
Yes.
All right. So, how did your childhood affect or impact your educational life? You know, moving from Kamakwe to Wellington, moving from one place to another, and all of those things.
Okay. So first, as I said, I'm from a humble background, so I knew what I went through. So because of that, I told myself there are some certain narratives that I was going to change. Because as little as I was by then, I know how much power education has to change someone. So for me, it was a matter of being educated, being what I want to be, and knowing that I'll be able to lift myself out of poverty. And then it is with that education that I'll be able to help those that I want to help. Because if I myself need help, it's difficult to help others. But by then, the only idea that I have was that I know with education, I know education was the key by then. Although it's not just the only key, but I know with education, I was going to be a voice for others and also a voice for myself. So it's one thing that actually inspires me. That's why all through my journey as a student, I've been doing a lot of other things, supporting myself, but I've always made sure that I prioritize education, because I know that education, one way or the other, has a way to lift people out of poverty. So for me, that was it.
Okay. So now that you have the Pleasant Foundation, how has that impacted the educational life of these children?
So for now, I work with orphans, street kids, teenage mothers, and less privileged kids. So the truth is, I have a lot of young people that are not even part of my foundation that I mentor, and even with those in my foundation. So most times when talking to them, one thing I will let them know is that the reason why I'm able to help you people today was because I prioritized my priority and actually knew what I wanted at an early stage. So I always tell them that I can do things for you, I can help you. But if you don't know what you want, no matter how much we help you, you will not be able to actualize your potential. You need to first accept that this is what I want to become and this is what I want to do. So because of that, we've had those that have actually stayed in school. We've had those that are trying hard to be in school. We have those that are just making effort. Although amongst the lot, you still have those that don't care. Most times, as long as they have it for free, they just think it's free. But I used to tell them that you are receiving it for free doesn't mean it's free. You have others that are actually sacrificing for you to have this thing. So it has been an inspiring journey. Like we have one of our teenage girls that we've been working with since she was in JSS 1. Now she will be taking the WASP exam this year. So for us, we feel proud because we know there are girls looking up to us, looking up to me, and that also wants to do better.
So every child has their own struggle growing up, and you've, said a bit about that. But was there any psychological effects that you had as a child?
So maybe because of the family that I came from, most times as a child, when you want something, or if we can forget about the want, say like when you need something and you don't have it, most times among your peers, you will not have a say, you will not have a voice. So I've said this a lot of time to people that growing up, I didn't have much friends because honestly, I was not people's choice. Going to school, I didn't have the appropriate shoes or bags or uniforms. So I will use maybe a uniform from class 3 to 6, depending on how fast I go. And when I went to GSS, it was, if you are lucky, because GSS 1, obviously you will have a new uniform because you're going to a new school. Yeah. And after which you will have to use that uniform until GSS 3. Then if you're lucky, when you go to SS. So I remember there was a time we had a sports meet and my uniform was so worn out that I took a blade to scrape, you have this scrape your uniform, look a bit new. And in the process of scraping that uniform, I just tore the uniform with the blade. Ooh. And I had to take it to a tailor. They had to patch it. So imagine I had to use that uniform for the whole academic year, and emotionally it didn't feel good. And even the compound that we were staying, I remember a lot of people were making fun of me, and most times they would even say wankanda, like when you wear a cloth or so, because indeed it was wankanda because it was not that easy. But in the midst of all of that, growing up, it actually started affecting me. But then I made up my mind that I know what I'm heading to. If I just push a little bit more, it will be better for me. So instead of allowing those things to get back at me, so I use them as a motivation to be where I am today. But growing up psychologically, it was really not easy. It was really not easy. But then one thing that has helped me, I always look at pain and see how much I can transform that pain to something meaningful. It's something, I don't know how I came about it since I was a child, but even now as an adult, it's something that has been helping me greatly. I don't allow negativity to push me back. Instead, I look at it and use it as a stepping stone to move forward.
That's a great tool out there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your parents, your dad is a pastor and your mom was a pastor as well. So how was it like growing up in a Christian home?
Growing up in a Christian home is the strictest thing that you'll ever know. So people just see you as a Bible, when you're a pastor's daughter. And for me, it was crazy because I'm the only girl. So they see you as a Bible. So I even remember we had issues in our church wherein like young teenagers or youth will get pregnant. And they will be the one to get pregnant, but I'll be the one to feel the heat. Because at the end, my dad will be like, you see, for this one, the suspension is just in church. But if you try it, you will be suspended from the church. You will leave the house. You will go to the village. And that's where you will stay. And just forget that you have a parent. So even in school, when the issue of spine was alarming, my dad would tell you, don't even try it. Because the day they will catch you spine, make sure you call another address. Don't even say this is where you are staying. At that point, like, it was so, like, you feel the pressure.
Yeah.
I even imagine when I went to university, and then I started working on sexual reproductive health rights. It was so traumatic for me because, like, I've had a lot of things. So to reconfigure my mind again and start knowing that, okay, this is something you can work on to help other people. It was not easy. Whatever little mistake you make, the first thing people say, na pastor picking.
Pastor picking.
Like, you just take your time to do things. It has its own good effect, but then again, there is a way it makes you not being yourself. Because at the end of the day, you want to do things to satisfy the church, satisfy the community, satisfy your parents at your own expense. So I will tell you, it takes the grace of God, but most times people see pastors' kids as Bible, forgetting that we are humans and we also have our own struggles.
Yeah. All right. So overall, well, I guess then one then now then can say, this weekend I don't come up final.
Yeah, of course. So even my dad will say that most of the time. Most times when he wants to give an example, he will be like, you see my daughter, ask her. In fact, I even forgot to mention, like, when I was in primary school, JSS to SS, they were cutting my hair. Because most times when I go to place my hair, I'll be there for like how many hours or so. So my dad was like, you have to choose between your hair and prioritizing your studies and other things. And I was like, okay, I will choose. So just cut my hair. So it was as bad as though they were just cutting my hair. I was like, okay, if that will save me a lot of things, let it just save me.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Must have been hard. So being that you've achieved so much as a young woman, tell us about the role your family, I mean, you already started it, saying that your dad told you that you had to choose at some point between your studies and your hair. So can you dip in the conversation into how the role of your family in enabling you into becoming this woman that you've been now?
Okay, so I'll start with first how I changed negativity and turn it for my good. So because I was the only girl, my dad actually was so concerned about my well-being and everything. So I remember one time a cousin of mine said, you don't even know that this is a girl. Just wait until she gets pregnant. Then you will understand that all what you are investing is nothing. And then I took up to that. I was like, really? So you mean this guy actually wished me this? And then I vowed that I'll never get pregnant when going to school, and I'll make sure I wait until an appointed time. So I was conscious of that. So even with my male friends that I had then, even now that I'm older, most times when we talk, they Like, they laugh at me. They are like, "Oh, Pleasant, are you still afraid to get pregnant or what?" But because of that, it was a negative comment, but I actually turned it for my good. And also, in spite of my work and all of it, as I said earlier, my family always tries to help. And because of that, they've helped me a lot. So my dad is one person, when you want to do something, he doesn't discourage you. He will let you do it and see how it goes. So most times he will not say a word. He will let you try. If he sees that it's going bad and you need help, that's when he will come in. But if you're somebody that is adventurous and you want to try new things, my dad is that kind of person that will always allow you to try it. So that's the good thing for my own family. And when it comes to paying school fees, college fees, and everything, he has always been doing it. Even with the little he is receiving, he has always prioritized our education. Because for him, he said, the only thing he can be able to give to us is education. That when you have it, you can try and see what you want to become. He doesn't have money at the bank that he will leave for any of us. He doesn't have any other thing. The only thing he can give is education, that when you have it, you can see how you can try and enrich yourself. So I'm from that family, though humble, but yet still prioritize the welfare of everyone.
All right. So if you had to go back in time to change one thing about your childhood, what would that be?
So it will be the aspect of being myself and allowing myself to grow at my own pace. Because it was hard, so I actually find myself like growing too fast, which I will actually not want my kids to undergo. Because most times it has its advantage and disadvantage. It makes you reach to a point where you are so independent, because you are from that family where you are so scared to even do things because you are afraid, you don't want this. So people take advantage of you, and unconsciously most times you don't even know, because as far as you are concerned, you just want to be perfect. You just want to do things in a perfect way. Then you grow up with it as an adult. You find people taking advantage of you, taking advantage of situation, but you just want to try because you know that, oh, if I do this and my family or my parents or the church get to hear this, maybe they'll be disappointed. So if I'm to change anything, it's the fact that I'm a human, I'm a child, I'm allowed to make mistake, and even with that mistake, I can still grow.
All right. So about parenting, I mean, you've said a lot about your parents, your dad especially. Is there any specific way you would have preferred to be parented than the way you were parented?
So I would say my parents tried in their own way, but most times you are not allowed to actually express how you feel about things.
Yeah.
You just accept them because you are a child, which in their own right, it was good, but in my own right, it had an effect on me, because at times, even when you are hurting, you don't say it because you are a child. And you know, we have this notion in Africa that the child is always wrong, just like how a wife is always wrong when you have issues with your husband. So it's the same thing with being a child. So even when I had issues with people that were older, you are not allowed to explain because you are a child. So even having issues with other people, you see, my dad will bash at me, but then at the end will come back to me and say, Pleasant, I did this for this. So you need to know that as a child, this and this and this is why I did it. Although for him, the good thing I would say is that most times he explained and lets me know why it happened, which now that I'm older, I came to appreciate it. But honestly, by then, I just thought everybody didn't like me. So if I could change anything, it will be maybe even from that initial stage, for you to know that I'm a child doesn't mean I'm always wrong. Because most times there are things that children say, allow them to say it. It's not because they are kids. Most times they might be saying the right thing, but if you just ignore them because they are kids, they will grow up keeping to themselves and not feeling comfortable to talk to people, even when they have some personal issues that they are struggling with.
I think a lot of us grew up not being able to, because we were not allowed to express ourselves. So no matter what we were going to, we're just going to suck it in.
Of course. And
grow with it, into adulthood, and all of that has their own effect.
Yeah.
But growing up in a Christian home, did you experience God, and how did experiencing God equip you to get through your journey?
So even as a child, I was introduced to God. We read Bibles, led morning devotions, went to church, prayed. So even at an early age, I did know there was God, and I did understand that there is a God that is able to change situations around. And I held on to the verse that says, God makes everything beautiful in His time and season, and that when the time is right, He, God, will make it happen. So that's why, even as an adult, when most times people tell me that I'm lucky, I say to them, no, I'm not lucky. I'm just graced. Because if I should narrate to you how much I struggle in being where I am today, then you will know that it's not by luck. It's hard work backed by the grace of God. So my favorite quotes most times that most of my friends know is this. I'll always say, men may not understand how far God has brought me.
Exactly.
Because it's not luck. And when I say it's not luck, I'm not joking. If it was luck, then I don't think it would have been possible for me to be where I am. Because most of the things I've achieved, from going to secondary school, going to university, doing my first degree, doing my second degree, going for my master's at Italy, coming, going through law school, passing the bar and all of those moments were challenging, and it actually showed me that God can be trusted and that God is a rewarder of them that diligently seek it, because I served God. Even as a child, I started singing in church when I was in primary school, and I've been singing since then. Even when I have exams, when I have a lot of other things to do, I've never left church because of exam. No matter the kind of exam, I always make sure I'm in church to do what I'm supposed to do. Even when I was taking the bar, most people say, hey, it's because you wait until you go to law school, you will know that there are days when you should not go to church. I was attending midweek meetings. I was attending choir practice. I was ministering. So I know, because I always tell God that I'm doing this for you. If you allow me to be put to shame, then it's you that have been put to shame. Because people have said, if I'm serving, I'll fail. And I know I'll serve because I know I serve a God that doesn't fail. So because of because I was raised to believe and trust God, even now as an adult, I know that anything that I ask for, as long as it is God's will for me to have it, I know I will have it. It's that kind of faith that I have. And that was because it was instilled in me from childhood.
Yeah. Well, it's glad to know. Most times the stories of pastors' kids are kind of different, Like they're moving one way and their parents are moving another direction. There's always an issue that, pastors' kids are always kind of a disgrace to their family in one way or the other because they don't live by the standards at all.
I know.
It was different for you. Do you really know why it was different for you? Was it because of parents, or was it because of you as a child, or was it because of your experience with God?
So first, it was personally because of me, because it's one thing for your parents to lead you in a godly way. It's another thing for you to follow. Then because maybe I had the experience and I encountered God for myself personally, I knew there were things I should not, because I know then if I do them, it will not only bring shame to me, it will bring shame to the body of Christ and to my parents. So for me, I had that awareness at a very young age. So because of that, I've always been careful. And then, as I said earlier, that my dad always makes you know that if you do this thing, this is the repercussion. So there are things we don't negotiate in our home, especially when it comes to morality issues. You know that you don't try them. If you try them, you will be dealt with. And because I've always wished and yearned to make my parents proud, I always make sure and try my best to do things that will please them. Personally, it was from me, backed by me knowing God at an early stage and not wanting to bring disgrace to my parents and also to the church, especially with this notion that pastor picking them, na so then they.
Yeah. Right, thank you so much, Pleasant. But before you go, what's one interesting moment that you always look back at?
So, because growing up was hard, so I have a cousin of mine that will always remind me when we were together at Wellington. We were so small, but we'll go and fetch water, we'll carry 5 gallons and all. And one day someone looked at me and was like, you are so dry. Why is it that you are so? And I was like, I've been dry all along. It's not as if I'm actually a fat person. So why is it's only now that you are seeing me? And then, so we laughed over it, and there was also a time, so we like to sing. So my cousin is someone that sings. So for me, I've always known what I wanted. So I remember he was singing, so he was the praise and worship leader. I was the backup and all. And then we've sang, and I was so tired, and I was like, you know what? Can you just please stop so that I can swallow my spit, because I can't even swallow my spit anymore. And then not knowing that our aunts were there paying attention to us, and everybody started laughing. So even now as adults, most times we just joke about it. But she has actually grown to be a very good singer. I sing, but actually not like her. So since then, we discovered that from childhood. So it was not a pleasing childhood because it has a lot of struggles, I would say. So there is no much fun thing because life was hard. Like, it was really hard. But to the glory of God and the shame of the devil, I am where I am today because of the grace of God.
All right, it's been amazing having you here today. Thank you so much, Marian Pleasant Kargbo, for honoring my invite to be here today.
Thank you, Lucy, and it was a pleasure.
All right. So that's how we end today's episode, and make sure you follow our page on all our social media handles, The Renewed Mind. I have been Lucy Imanet Aliu. Till next time, tata.